So evidence gathered by the State Capture Commission will now be available for use by law enforcement agencies. That's after President Ramaphosa announced last night the amendment of the Commission's regulations. The details were gazetted on the website last night, as I was saying. But before these amendments, Commission employees were bound to secrecy and prevented from sharing any information obtained from their investigations. Let's talk about this now with the NPA's Investigating Directorate Head, Hermione Cronje. Very good afternoon to you, Advocate. Thank you so much for joining us. Just how big of a step forward is this for your investigations into state capture and related crimes?
Good afternoon, Tembekile. I think that this is a huge boost to our efforts to move forward on significant prosecution. So we are very excited by the amendment finally coming through.
One of the things that this allows you to do is that you can also tap into the human resources or resources from the Commission and second some of the advocates there. Do you already have a clear idea of just how you want to tap into that?
Exactly. We've been in discussion for quite some time now, and what this regulation now does, it says in terms that law enforcement can now employ. We shall not be precluded from employing or consulting people employed by the Commission. So what we have is a clear idea of what we need to do. What we've lacked significantly is the skill and the capacity and the capability to do the work. The Zondo Commission investigators are wrapping up. We now have at our disposal a ready supply of people who understand the work, who have the skill, have the experience, and the know-how, who we can deploy to do the work that we need to have done rapidly.
And the reality with corruption investigations and the availability of either information or human resources in this case is that much of what's happened at the state capture inquiry have been allegations, some of them not necessarily substantiated in the strongest way legally, often rebutted by the other party. So you may have all of this new developments, but the road ahead is still quite long.
I wouldn't say the way ahead is still long. What this assists us in doing is certainly speeding up our processes. So we have been working to, from what has happened at Zondo, we have a clear hypothesis of who we need to focus on and where we need to focus our efforts. So we have a clear plan around what lines of inquiry need to be pursued to prove or disprove the hypothesis that we're working with. And we've gone some way on that. But this is for us, a shot in the arm. It gets us going much faster. It almost has the possibility of increasing our capacity tenfold. And it just makes a huge difference. We have been really hamstrung by resources, and this will just boost us enormously.
And the Zondo Commission, of course, had been criticized by some, saying it's an expensive waste of time because of the non-criminally binding aspects of its work. Now that this is going to happen and the NPA is going to have access to that information and stuff, do you think this finally goes away then in validating the process itself?
Yes. I, for one, would not say the Zondo Commission has been a waste of time. It certainly has given us access to information that would not otherwise have been available to law enforcement. What it has done is equip us with an understanding of what happened, and it sort of focuses our efforts on trying to prove or disprove who should be held accountable. So it has been enormously useful. The Commission's resources, the forensic capability, for example, is a legacy that it will leave law enforcement that we will benefit for years to come, because it's almost catapulting us into the 21st century, something that otherwise would take law enforcement a very long time to get up to speed on. It has brought together and now will make available, and we will have at our disposal to take forward the work.
You're part of a fairly new, if we can still call you new, leadership at the NPA, Advocate Cronje. A lot of people have said they've heard a lot of promises from you and the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batoyi, not enough in terms of action actually going to court on the high-profile cases. When can we expect that to happen? Because at this point, it very much feels as though that is what it's going to take for South Africans to begin to have confidence in institutions like the NPA, which you've heard were hollowed out over the years, but now people are saying it's time to get to work.
Yes, no, I'm painfully aware of the dissatisfaction. And I want to say two things about that. First, it's not that we haven't been doing anything. We certainly have. When I was appointed, I said there were 3 areas of work that we wanted to focus on. The first area and our first priority remains cleaning up law enforcement. Because if we don't have law enforcement clean and doing what it ought to be doing, it's a free-for-all in our society. And so we've made a number of significant arrests at senior level in the police, and our investigations are focused on law enforcement. We've made some arrests in the SOE sector. We have R1 billion under restraint in the regiment's Transnet matter. So there are a number of matters where we've made progress. But what we haven't done is give people those most responsible, those who orchestrated and those who benefited. We recognize that. And those kinds of investigations are certainly complicated and difficult because they require us to make connections that aren't always obvious. It's very easy to get people who sit with the smoking gun, who sign off on the contract. But to get the next level of person who put those people in place and who enabled the environment in which those people operated, for those people, you rely on electronic evidence, cell phones, bank accounts, email communication, and we have to put that together in a picture that the court will accept firstly. So the court will accept that it's authenticated evidence. And ideally, you need people on the inside to really color that information. But if you take people on the inside who are complicit, you need to do considerable substantiation of that evidence. Whereas, people come to the Zondo Commission, there's very little cross-examination, or certainly there's a long lag between a few questions and the cross-examination. A criminal court is a very different place, where witnesses will suffer intense interrogation, and we need to do the work to substantiate and verify and make sure that our cases are solid. The South African public will forgive us less if we take cases to court and we fail. So this amendment, I think, will help us to escalate and certainly speed up far more significantly than we have until now, the ability to bring those kinds of cases to court.
Advocate Hermine Cronje from the National Prosecuting Authority, thank you for your time this afternoon.